Hello, everybody. We are here on this adventure to kick off and look at what it is like to be the valuable product in your life. I mean, what is that even? Being a valuable product? Like, do you even get that you are what is valuable about everything in your life, everything that you do, everything that that shows up, everyone that shows up? Or do you judge yourself and do you trust yourself, or do you tend to get swayed by things outside of you? Are you making yourself the source? Are you the source in your life, or something else? And so this topic, I thought I'll just share briefly about how this topic came up. Was that I was looking at how much in my business in the past few years, I've been working with a lot of female entrepreneurs. And one of the words that's so current and so glamorized is hustle, right? Like we're hustling and just the hustle, and so many hashtags around that kind of like celebrate the whole idea of hustle. And this idea of hustle never really resonated with me. Something about it was so always off. And so one day I just Googled out, what does the word hustle even mean? And one of the definitions that came out was something around, wherein you let go of your peace. Like that was the connotation, was that, you're basically, it's somewhere where you're not peaceful, but in so much of doing. And I was like, oh my God, if you look at this, how much of our modern day life has been around celebrating things like hard work and hustle and consistency and all of these different ideas that sound very right. And the way they're talked about, the way everyone speaks about them are so like, yes, of course, very sound like common sense that is what is required to succeed. That is what is required for you to, even if whatever it is you'd like to create in the world, you have got to be consistent. You've got to hustle. You've got to hard work. You've got to, all those super strong, quote unquote, in one way of looking at it, the masculine, and I'm just saying it on purpose in quotes, but the way in the general word people have defined masculinity, that these are the traits that are required for you to succeed and create what you'd like to create in your world. And I bought into that for a really long time, like a couple of years, really long time for me. I was really, really slogging into the whole, that's it, I found my answer, this is the key. I'd like to see a world where, there's greater consciousness and people are everyone's included, nothing's judged, where I am included. And this is the answer to that. In order to create that, I've got to work hard, got to hustle, I've got to, all of these new age values. And some time ago, I came across this book called Do Nothing, which has this really great way explained. They've shown this whole perspective on how all of this even came up. And so the whole book talks, not the whole book, parts of the book talk about like the whole industrial revolution and the era before that. That how much the era before industrial revolution was literally about everybody moving with the natural rhythm of nature, the natural rhythm of creation, their own natural rhythm. So there would be like these artists and farmers and traders. They were not always working, but there was this rhythm in how creation used to be. There was this rhythm in which, an artist would create its own art. And so that was a very different way of being and creating in the world. And then the whole idea around industrial revolution came in, and people started looking at how can we have, more things being produced of the same kind so we can sell them for a profit. And the whole capitalization came in. And again, just to clarify, guys, like this whole conversation is not about making it wrong or right. It's just about the idea is to look at what really occurred. And so people started making people basically, when I'm saying people, I'm basically talking about the leaders of the industrial revolution. They realized that as long as there is inconsistency, like the natural, that which was the natural rhythm was likely labeled as being inconsistent. around that era. And they looked at how, unless they can control people into doing something for like 8 to 12 hours in a day, they're not going to be able to fulfill their agenda of creating, like monetizing the whole thing. And so in the Industrial Revolution is when, before Industrial Revolution, the natural rhythm, your flow, your art, your character, these were what were the valuable products. That's what was creating your life and the world. And with the whole advent of Industrial Revolution, it changed from all of that to hustle and hard work and consistency and routine and discipline, right? And these were the values that were made right. These were the values that were, celebrated. They all an invention. One fine day someone woke up and they're like, this is going to be valuable now because this creates the money, this creates the da 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 da, whatever. So anywhere in your life that you ever made yourself wrong because you wouldn't fit in to that which is this invented reality around these values that are so highly held in our society but never made sense to you, would you be willing to destroy and uncreate that, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, online, podpoc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And so the whole thing about being the valuable product came into birth. There's a section in the reference material. So those of you guys who might not be familiar with access consciousness or tools of access consciousness is a modality, a way of life, a system of living, tools for creating your life that I'm a certified facilitator in. And there are these different ways of being and creating in the world, these different tools in this whole system that support you in finding what is true for you, in discovering that what is actually right about you. And so a lot of these conversations are really things that I've drawn and really that I've received a lot from the whole work of access consciousness, which is founded by Mr. Gary Douglas, the wizard Gary, as we often call him, and co-created by Dr. Dane here. But the whole thing about being the valuable product came into my world in many different ways. But what stood out was this section. There's this whole resource of reference material of everything that has ever been said or done in a class. Gary, what he does is anything that's not relevant in terms of the majority of what's current in energy, he just puts it in the reference material. So it's not that it's not valid anymore, but it's just that it's not relevant as much in this moment. But a part of what you've got to do to be a CF, a certified facilitator, is you've got to study that material. And so one day I was studying and reading it, and this whole section came in around, it was a small section around being a valuable product, but it's something that really, I mean, my body relaxed. Like literally, that's one of the ways in which, how so many times you read things and your body is always giving you information. And notice when you hear something or you come across something and your body tenses up versus when you're being with something, reading something, interacting with something, and your body relaxes. And that for me is a great sign of what's real, what's light, what's true for me, which is one of the most pragmatic, most liberating, most fundamental tools in access consciousness, which invites you to look at that what's light for you is what's true for you, and what's heavy is a lie. It's not true for you. So it's not that we're at the effect of the world, but we actually have within ourselves this very, very powerful tool of awareness, our body right here and our being, which constantly is interacting with the world and giving us information, very broadly speaking, from these spaces of light and heavy. What's light is what's true for you. What's heavy is a lie. So right here, a great thing to just play with for rest of your day, rest of your week, rest of the month, rest of your life. But when I started reading this, what I recognized, my body like literally physically relax, like my shoulders relax. And I took a deep sigh of breath and I'm like, oh my God, yes, I don't really get that I am the valuable product in my life. So here's my question to you. Do you get that you're the valuable product in your life? Or is it like one of those things that, when you hear it, you're like, yeah, that sounds right. Like, sounds about correct, but do you really, really get it? And so everything that does not allow that to show up in your life, everything that does not allow you to perceive the value you be, to know the value you be, to receive the value you be, and to be the valuable product in your life. Would you be willing to destroy and uncreate that, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pot, pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And again, if you're new to the tools of access consciousness, this crazy thing I just said is the access consciousness clearing statement. You can read more about it, watch some videos around it on theclearingstatement.com. But for the purpose of this call, we're just going to skip over it. Just to summarize, it's like, it just clears out things energetically. So you don't even have to indulge in anything cognitively, because let's just look at this. If your mind, your cognition could really change things and solve the quote unquote problems you've been trying to solve, wouldn't it have done that so already? So this is like a different way of playing. And so I recognized when I was being with that, I started noticing that, oh my God, how much have I been trying to fit in to these modern day values, knowingly, unknowingly in my life? How much am I making myself wrong because I'm not doing it the way they say it's supposed to be done? And then constantly trying to still, beat the crap out of myself to make me, more disciplined, more, and these are also the things that I grew up being judged for. So my parents would, and not like they didn't know any better. So from what they knew best, because they had bought into this whole industrial revolution value system, that's what the values based on which they would often want me to follow and then judge me against. So if I would wake up and I'm not in the space to do something, like I still remember this really fun story of, I come from India. I grew up in India, and one of the sports, which in North America, it's not so relevant as much, but is literally such a big it's like the sport, the baseball of India is cricket. And everybody stops their life. Nobody's doing anything else but watching a cricket match when the team India is playing. And so we have the biggest thing around cricket is the World Cup. And all the different countries participate, like Australia, England, South Africa, da da da. And in 2011, I was painting something. I was really into painting back in that time. Like, it was the zone of my life where I was just painting all the time. And I was painting something, and the World Cup final was going on. And the World Cup, India was playing in that World Cup final. And I was painting and I was in this zone of, I just did not and cricket is not a small game. It takes you a fucking full day to play it. And so from morning to all the way to almost night sometimes. And so I just wouldn't stop, because I was just navigating with that entire enthusiasm and translating it into my paintings and things like that. And also secretly, I had a bit of a superstition, because I thought that anytime I'm not painting, India loses a player. So there was a little bit of madness to that too, and I was enjoying it. And at the end of it, after the whole day of, just standing on my eyes, like, just painting in front of my canvas and just looking at the match from the distance, India won the World Cup. And it was so celebratory. And I was like, oh my God, everyone was going crazy. The whole country was on streets celebrating, da 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 da. And I wanted to go out. And the city that I grew up in is not known to be very friendly with girls. And so my parents had a lot of fears around, me going out alone in a crowded place and stuff. And I wanted to go out and celebrate. And my dad was very, very upset that I wanted to do that. He didn't want me to go out because he was concerned for apparently my quote unquote safety. But there's something like we had some conversations in the house that completely broke my flow. And I was like, that painting still to date is on the wall in my room, incomplete. Just, and that's their point of, that's what my parents always tell me, that this is incomplete. You've got to be consistent. You got to finish it. And to me, that's completion. I'm like, this is complete. This painting, like it says so much to me. It reminds, like, it's such a great reminder of so many things, ways in which I give up my power, ways in which, so like, it's so different the way I interact with that painting and how my parents perceive them. Every single day to date, when I go back to my parents' house, they're always like, can you finish that painting? And I'm like, can you get over it? It's already done. So like, how many times in your life were you made wrong? Because you had a different reality with things. You engaged with things differently and nobody got it. And anywhere you made that more real, that more relevant, that more true than what you know is relevant, real, and true for you, would you be willing to destroy and uncreate that, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pot, pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So the thing is that in our world, and in everybody, we're living in a world that more people and everybody has their own points of views and everybody has their own journey, their way of looking at things, da 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 da. The thing is that what I found was that the more I make things outside of me, the valuable product, like validation from somebody else, anybody else's approval, their point of view, if I made anything or even anyone more valuable than me, then 100% of the times, my body, my being is not happy with that. So on the surface, like even in that example, when my dad said that he did not like that I go out, and I didn't want him to, like, I wanted to quote unquote honor him. Like that's what my point of view was back then. But the more I've been with that, the more that I see it, I realize that, did I honor myself in that moment? Did I honor what I desired? No. And so in the true sense, did I even honor him? No. I just made him, his point of view, his way of looking at life more valuable, and given up on me. And that story stick me for many, many years. Like today, it's like a thing that I really almost don't have any, I don't think I have any point of view around that. And I can look back at it and just laugh and look at how much it has facilitated in my life. But that one episode and that one painting took me many, many years of, like, I literally went to my therapist after that with that story. Or what do I do with this? And it was actually when I started using the tools of access consciousness and started playing with things like 5 elements of intimacy with yourself, that I started even realizing that, dude, like, unless I'm honoring me, I'm not honoring another. Unless I'm having the thing that I say I'd like to see more of in the world with me, I'm not contributing to that which I say I want to see more of. In fact, it's the opposite of that. So if I say that what's valuable to me, what I'd like to see more of in the world is peace or a level of kindness, then anytime I'm not being kind to me, that's me contributing the opposite. And even saying contributing is kind of like an oxymoron in that, but really contributing the opposite of that energy in the world. And so this whole conversation about being the valuable product in your life and in your creations doesn't just end there. That's where it begins. Because when you start valuing yourself, when you start actually being present with the energies you'd like to see more of in your life and in the world, that's how the world changes. So when I started actually back on the story of looking at what's truly valuable to me, I realized how much had given up, first of all, my power, and the energy of being the source to things and people outside of me, like my parents, my best, quote unquote, best friend, who you could, if you really look at the dynamics, you might be saying, is this your best friend or your best enemy? But how much do we give our powers outside to things and to people and to ideas and values that everybody else says that this is how it is? But is it for you or something else? And so when I allowed myself to explore be with that question, explore in that, what came up really surprised me, because I recognized for the first time in my life that what I value is space. What I value is a level of kindness with yourself, with the planet, with all the beings. That is a different space. And what I value is actually the things that a lot of times growing up in my life, I was made wrong for, because they would always say, you're like, you're just daydreaming, or that's a good idea. Haha, get practical, look at the practicalities of life. And how many times did I give up on that which I know is possible in favor of all of these intensities and densities? And so everywhere you've allowed yourself to let go of that which you know is possible with you in your life, in the world, with the planet, with the future of our planet, would you be willing to destroy and uncreate that, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, online, pop, pop, shorts, boys and beyonds. And I found that that which I truly value is actually considered woo-woo in this world in a lot of ways. Like, unless someone's actually willing to be with it and play with it, all of these energies around perceiving, knowing, being, receiving, creating from a space of questions, choice, possibilities, contribution. And contribution, even those subtleties of contribution is not what you do, it's what you be and receive in the world. It's so undefined. It's so not like what exists or what anybody else is saying is real or true. In fact, it's the opposite of that. Everybody else is saying that's not what's real and true. That's like an idea, good idea. But is it? Like, I have birds coming on my deck all the time, and they are never hustling. They are never, ever, ever doing the hard work. There's no discipline in their life. Like, they're non-existent ideas. These in fact are the ideals and ideas that were invented and created, and they don't exist in the nature. And so what is it like to live as and be as and create as and succeed as the nature that you truly be? And would you be willing to step up and walk into that zone of space where, there is little to hold on to, but a lot to explore? So this is my invitation for you for the next 1 month. In that section in the reference material, there was this clearing that Gary actually says you guys need to do it 30 times a day for 90 days. But to start with, I'm going to be doing this clearing 30 times a day for next 30 days at least. And not along with that, in addition to that, there are these energies, these whispers that when I started engaging with this topic, started really coming up. They wanted to be explored differently around, what are the energies you'd like your life to be? What is it you like to see more of in the world? And there are a couple more things into that. Engaging with what you know is possible, against the logics, despite the logic, making logic irrelevant. What do you know is possible? And jumping into that. And like looking at body and money, because that's what I find that a lot of times when these conversations come up, what I've faced a lot in my life in conversations with people is, there seems to be somewhere in the journey of creation and living, we invented a separation between this way of being in our life and that which we call the practicalities. You've got to pay the bills, you got to this, you got to da 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 da, all of those things that are so dense and solid, and they do appear to be real, because what's dense and solid, science tells us the molecule has what, like 2% of solidity and 98% space. But what we see from our eyes is that density. We don't see the space. That's something that you can only perceive. So the whole thing about really being in that presence of what is possible, because possibility is in that 98% of the space, and looking at the whole conversation around money, even from the point of view of, what do you need money for? Do you, the being, require money, or does your body require money? And so how can you include your body in creation of more of that? How can you listen more, receive more, and show up from that space and create from that space and use everything that's there available for you? Like, everything that quote unquote this reality has to offer is kind of like a color in enormously big palette of colors of possibilities that we can use to paint our lives. I mean, they do sure want you to know that it's just a set of 12 colors that's available for you. You have to pick and choose from this. But what do you know? What other colors are infinitely available? And so how can you include even this reality and everything that's available here in creation of that which is valuable to you, in creation of your life, your living from the space of knowing that you are the valuable product, that what you know is valuable. And that is exactly what is required to create the future on the planet, in your life, in the world that you're aware of. So it's the exercise in cultivating trust in yourself. And along with the 30 by 30 challenge, we will be hopping on every Monday to have, like, there'll be a little bit of a challenge to play with. And the theme around which we'll be exploring that entire week. And at the end of the week, we'll be meeting again to, for any questions that come up, anything that, sticks you around that topic, anywhere something wasn't moving for you, to clear some space around that for you, so we can have more of what you'd like to have in your life. So this is like a little invitation to that. And I am so curious to know, what questions do you have? What do you have any questions around this topic that you would like to ask? Cool, no pressure. You don't have, yeah, Nurhan.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you for the space always you are being, and for this class that you are creating now. It so excites me because it was in my universe for a long time, and which I always, was aware of other people's, the constructed reality, not allowing themselves, not trusting themselves, and not being themselves, and how this reality is actually working. And I was in that zone that you mentioned, um, like making myself wrong for not following the rules of this reality, like from starting one thing and then going to another one. I was actually following the energy back then, which I wasn't aware of, and making myself wrong that I cannot stick to one thing, or I have to do it this way, that certain way. It has, of course, a lot. I mean, it has facilitated throughout my access, journey. And but I'm so excited about this class and what that will bring up more and more, and in my world and in other people's worlds, because I love sharing, whatever I perceive and learn and apply, whatever contributes to me. And I was aware before you started, even, before I was aware this class is going to happen, that it's so interesting when they say, oh, this is the energy right now in this present. And I keep hearing from everyone and people with this kind of, judging themselves, making themselves wrong. It's coming more up in my reality. They are talking about stuff like this, and it's like, wow, this is now. And I was like thinking, as in the book, from Dr. Dane, change, be you and change the world. The more we are us and the more we are contributing to the change to the world. And the quote or the sentence from Gary was saying, if you don't value yourself, you are doing not good to the earth. It's like when you judge, you implant bad, into the in our planet. So that's not great. That always gave me goosebumps,
Yeah.
and yeah, what I want to say is, it's like I'm so excited, and I perceive like, one, this is a huge contribution, even though we are, doing this right now. So to everyone around us, I think, it's like contributing. Once they perceive and get that change or whatever it's going to change, then when the whole, some change is happening. I don't find the words right now for it.
That's
you know
awesome.
it is, and I trust, I value myself, but what else is more available, with this call? We even still have, we are living in this reality, and we still have these parts in our time, we make ourselves, we doubt about it,
Mhm.
is that really what it is? Or, but, I mean, I'm so excited.
I'm so
I
glad.
don't know, I mean, yeah.
Thank you for saying that. That is so amazing. Exactly. Like, what the fuck else is possible if we
Uh-huh.
truly start trusting ourselves and truly start, because there isn't anyone or anything outside of us that's going to come validate to us about what we know. Only we can. And so,
Yes.
what the hell does it take to cultivate that practice of really getting that I am the valuable product in my life? Like, that's for, no, I'm not just saying it for myself, but all of you guys. Like, you are the valuable product in your life. You know what's possible. Nobody else does. And only you can contribute. I mean, there's a reason that you're aware of those possibilities. And you play such an ingredient role in actualizing that. And it goes so much against the logic because, you cannot plan for it too much. But I mean, you can maybe a little bit here and there support yourself in different ways, but you wouldn't know exactly what this is going to be. But there's this whisper that's always been whispering in your ear, like this something that you've always known is possible. And how do you find it? How do you actualize the possibilities that you're aware of in your life? And what contribution is that to the planet? What contribution is that to the earth, to the trees outside of your house, to the trees across the planet, to the Amazon? And what contribution is you stepping up as you trusting you? And it's not like an absolute journey that you now get it and you do it right after. Like, that's not the point. It's like an ongoing exploration day after day. Like, because you're this and you're greater and you're greater than that and you're greater than that. So it's like really opening yourself up into the exploration of that which is truly valuable to you, and honing in on those energies that are kind of like, I also find in my life that anytime I show up as what I do not want to show up as, like when I look back and I'm like, I did not like how I showed up with that. I did not like that I screamed. I did not like this, or I did not like that. I did not like that I had that reaction come up. I recognize that it's when I am not being in the dominant energy of what I know is possible is when I react to the world. So, like, my practice with myself and my commitment to myself going forward is that what would it take to cultivate the presence with what I know is possible? No matter how crazy the world is, no matter what comes up. And I'll probably goof up around here and there. And each goof up is an opportunity to like look at what more is available now. What else can I choose? And so the whole invitation of this program is to strengthen that platform for you, off of which you create a life that you know is possible and show up as more of you. So thank you so much for sharing that, Nurhan. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you for doing this. Really, I mean, I appreciate it.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And because another key element is to really get that being, this is called being the valuable product, and being and receiving goes hand in hand. You cannot truly be without receiving, and you cannot truly receive without being. There are two sides of the same coin, except that it's not a two-dimensional coin. It's like a spherical, multidimensional world that we live in. And so, what would it be like to receive more of you and to be that in the world? So, that's the invitation. If you guys have any questions, I'll very quickly just share my screen to take you through the program, which is being the valuable product, including you in your life and creation. We'll have one kickoff call, which we're having right now, and we'll have weekly home plays and prompts, 3 clearing calls, 1 wrap up call, a daily challenge, and a private Telegram group. And on the page itself, you can see the calendar if you want to get a sense of what is when. Here we are right now, and this is going to be rest of our program. So we'll share the link to that in with you in a follow-up email. And I'll also post the link in the chat. If you want to check out, you're warmly invited. And what the fuck else is possible?
So
Awesome. Thank you
awesome.
guys.
Thank you. I'm really
Yay.
excited.
Me
This
too.
whole conversation around rhythms and the history around the Industrial Revolution, you really opened some interesting awareness up for me, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining today. Bye. Mwah.
Bye.